Recently, I posted some links of sermons by Pete Peters out of Colorado. Pete Peters was a very strong man for Messiah. Even though I don't agree with everything he said, that's just a little disclaimer from me on certain issues. Pete Peters went in 1989 with a group of men to Washington, D.C., and here he is talking about some of the issues that they discussed with congressmen.
In our rooms, and on the Sunday night we spent a considerable amount of time, such as indiscriminate immigration, protection of AIDS victims contrary to Bible law, World Conservation Bank, disregard for private property rights, police-state cause, total subservience to Israel, free trade zone, internationalism versus nationalism, foreign aid, BATF, arrogance and gun control measures, government connection with drugs, terrorism, and lack of communication with public. And we had specific items that we were prepared to discuss with the congressman, and every congressional office was a little different as to how to reach them and talk to them about.
So, that is Pete Peters speaking about the topics. Did you notice that abortion was not one of the topics? He did mention total subservience to Israel, but he did not say anything about counterfeit Israel. I mean, I can appreciate that one wouldn't want to be so bold as to make a direct attack on counterfeit Israel. But the fact that abortion was not in their question catalog, I find really, really to be a glaring mistake. And the thing is, Roe versus Wade was decided. In my opinion, it was a fictitious case. The problem was that the forces that should not be wanted to write the centerpiece of their religion, which is child sacrifice, into law. And they decided to do it on the basis of fictional characters, Roe versus Wade. That's my opinion. I was 9 years old at the time. This was decided by the Supreme Court in January of 1973. So when Pete Peters went to Washington, D.C. with those men, I'm just going to shut this off now. There's no need to have it on. It was only 16 years after the passing into so-called law of abortion, so-called rights for women. And I've often wondered, or I had often wondered up to yesterday, how could it be that there were just so many strong men and the movement was so strong and they were going to Washington and they were making a difference and an impact. And it seems like the whole movement just fizzled out. He mentions a church here that was in Virginia, something about Christian Israel in Virginia. It doesn't exist anymore. It seems like when Pete Peters died, Earl Jones died, Sheldon Emery died, that, like I said, the movement just died out. And it was a mystery to me as to why. And then yesterday I happened upon this video called Pastor Peter J. Peters Acts 1425, April 9th, 1989. And I realized when I was listening to the topics that were broached and discussed with the congressman that abortion was missing. And lo and behold, 2022, Roe versus Wade rears its ugly head again. We've been told that there was a leak from the Supreme Court. I don't believe in leaks. The forces that should not be are very, very secretive because they want control over your mind and your heart and your body. This is coming very, very soon when the man of sin comes to prefer his mark and force it on everybody. And so this leak was meant to get out so that all the news channels would be talking about Roe versus Wade and how can they do this to us and women's rights, my body, my choice. But juxtapose this with the vax. It's really very contradictory, I think, and quite hypocritical. It doesn't make any sense, but it just is. It just signifies the chaos that we're living in today. And of course, we know that Satan is going to bring in his new world so-called order, which is going to be, of course, disorder and out of order, out of chaos. We've got so many things going on now, but this Roe versus Wade is, I believe, a bluff. I do not believe that the government, it doesn't matter what the people want. I've discovered that over these last couple of years, and I realized so many things here in Germany also. Whenever they discuss an issue and bring it to the fore and make it public, you know that the decision is already a foregone conclusion. And then they act like they're debating a topic. They're not debating at all. They've decided what they want, and they're going to push it through, whether we want it or not. This idea of democracy is just a ruse to make people believe that they're free and make people believe that they have a choice. It's all just set up to make you believe in lies. And my point in making this short video, I wanted it to be short anyway, was just to show you what I believe is at the heart of the problem with Israel, with the true people of Israel, the true men and women, God's chosen Israelite people, Israel and Judah, is that they do not recognize abortion as murder and as child sacrifice, which it is. They do not realize their responsibility for speaking out against infanticide, which abortion is, and the forces that should not be know this. Only what they've done is they've whitewashed the issue into a feministic issue, saying women have a choice about what they want to do with their reproductive systems, which completely turns two blind eyes to the fact that sex, as we call it, is made for the purpose of reproduction. And if a woman does not want to get pregnant, she doesn't have to, but she should abstain from sex or use birth control, which is probably also not right in the eyes of God. God said, be fruitful and multiply, particularly the children of Jacob. You know, one interesting thing is when I look at these abortion sites and look at the photographs and footage of aborted babies, women who are going in for abortions, they are invariably white. I watched a video recently. It was a documentary about a so-called doctor named Kermit, Kermit, Gosnell, Gosnell. And to me, he looks like he was a mixed black and white man. Maybe there was some, I don't know. I really don't know his ethnic heritage, but the point is that he murdered both mothers and babies, and he was indicted for manslaughter, and he did issue the death penalty. He got life in prison. And watching this footage, all I'm seeing is white women, and I'm seeing white babies cut up and put in jars. And I didn't see any black babies. You know, if they were going to put a black baby on there, you know that the people would be incensed, and there would be outrage. How could you do this to a black baby? You see white, and I looked up the website yesterday for abortion no, written in one word, abortion no, and I don't see any black footage on there. I didn't look at all of it because, to be honest, it's just too overwhelming and too barbarous, too barbaric for me to look at it, and I'm sure it is for you too. But on the very front page, they've got a baby there, and it's a white baby. So you see, the message is our white babies are being destroyed, but of course, all lives matter. So, but all I want to get at is this point that it's always a white baby that's shown. And anyhow, the problem with Israel is that they do not recognize manslaughter for what it is, and abortion is murder, and it's the committing of whoredoms that causes this. The idea that sex is some sort of a sport or a pastime. And I'll tell you what, this idea of spreading your legs for every Tom, Dick, and Harry that comes around, that turns you on, is what is destroying the society. Also sodomy. I guess that's almost like a coin. On the one side, you've got the whoredoms, and you've got the abortion, and on the other side, you've got the sodomy. And these were not recognized by Pete Peters and his people. Now, I don't believe ever heard Pete Peters talk about abortion yet. And I wonder why. And I do believe that the Lord God Almighty is not going to break that yoke of Esau off our neck until we as Hebrew Israelite people begin to speak out against abortion in whatever way we can. I just wanted to tell two anecdotes. I mean, I've talked about this issue before on here, on YouTube. And I'll just bring up one anecdote real quick. I had two friends at the barn, not really friends, but acquaintances, women that I know, and both of them voted for the Green Party. And I get emails regularly from a woman named Pilar. I can't think of her last name. She's some kind of a Herzogin here in Germany. And she sends me emails every other day. Also Matthias von Gersdorf. Now, I could very well imagine that because both of these people are in the hierarchy, that they are probably controlled opposition, just to elicit and find out who is against abortion and who isn't, so that our names can go on some blacklist. But it doesn't really matter, because the Lord God Almighty is sovereign. We do not need to be afraid of these people. And that's the whole problem. People are too afraid. They want to remain anonymous. You cannot remain anonymous. When you get up there and it's your turn to take the mark of the beast, you're going to have to confess Messiah or die. So you may as well just take off your mask right now and show your true colors. This is what I do believe the Lord God Almighty is waiting for. Pete Peters didn't do it with abortion. He was more worried about keeping his guns than abortion. Pardon me. I know I'm being brash. Anyhow, I spoke, all I wanted to say was I was sending to both of these women that I know the emails that I was getting on abortion, on this gender craze, and so on. And the one said to me, she said, look, to me, it just seems like you're doing, I don't want these emails. Don't send them to me anymore. So I honored her. I honored her request, and I didn't send her any more emails. I did continue sending the emails to the other woman who didn't mention them ever. And I asked her once, I said, have you been reading the emails that I send? Sometimes. And I said, well, what do you think? Well, I'm not against abortion. Well, then after the election, when the Green Party did get into Parliament, and I do believe that all elections are rigged. They are selections, of course, and not elections. And I asked her, I said, don't you think there's a discrepancy and a contradiction with the Green Party? You know, they say they love the environment and they love the trees, and yet they're so willing to pass laws to butcher children in their wombs, the mother's wombs. And she said no. She didn't see any discrepancy there at all. And I'm telling you, this is the downfall of mankind.